We are back, and we're going to have to speed right through this show. Otherwise, it won't finish and my computer will crash, as it just has. So I am on take 2 here, because the last take was destroyed. Welcome back to the Pirate Ship of the Mind. My name's Adrian Pocobelli. Artist Journal, May 14th, 2025. Sailing through a beautiful, sunny day here in Berlin, Germany. It continues. And it's probably a good thing that that happened, because I was on the 50-minute mark, and I hadn't even gone through half the comments. So I need to shorten these shows. I don't know how we're going to do it here, but so I'm just going to be pretty fast about it. So for apologies in advance. Here's some beautiful work, though. Here's Enigmatris and One Don't Knows. I believe that's how you say One Don't Know's name, but I could be wrong about that. Here it is. A cool collab. Of course, One Don't Knows does collage. This is kind of trademark over here. Collage with certain kind of quirks, shall we say the keyhole, surreal collage, as One Don't Knows, putting little maybe tattoos of a certain kind there. And so the collage elements, One Don't Knows, and then Enigmatris with the beautiful ASCII here, visual ASCII and text, rounding it all off. Looks great, doesn't it? Kind of has its own texture here. And here, a little bit of maybe magic wand selecting, give it some organic feel to it. Beautiful color as well. So fabulous piece here by Enigmatris and One Don't Knows, Blooming. And they also had another one. This was posted by Enigmatris here, Midnight Bloom, a collab with One Don't Knows. So let's quickly, did I bring that up? We'll bring it up quickly, not look up conversation. Open image in new tab, so you can see it up close. And here it is. So again, another collage. And cool masking here by Enigmatris. Very fun piece. Great surreal collagist. One Don't Knows. So very nice collaboration there. Here's One Don't Knows on Tezos. And for those that are newer, you may not know One Don't Knows. Hasn't really posted a ton in the last couple of years, but here and there, mostly on Super Rare now. After moving from Tezos, but was there back in the day, back on Tezos. Who owns? Do I own this one? I do. Who owns the one of one? I can't. God, I'm scared to see what I paid for it. Maybe it's worth it, actually, in a sense. And I don't mean to. I mean, One Don't Know sells for a lot of money. So, but I mean, 225 Tezos was $400 2 years ago. In richer times, my friends, and it's a beautiful work. So hilarious. The Destiny. So yes. So here is also, so this is an example, actually, of One Don't Know's the eye, right? And also the face that is missing. Sometimes it's copied. You'll see people who will actually copy this. I made the mistake of bringing up a work that I thought was One Don't Know's, but it turned out to be someone who is just kind of, taking the style. So all to say, very cool, original collage artist, One Don't Knows. This is interesting too. So One Don't Know's on display here. And I think it's a nice, obviously it's nice display as you see here, but you really see the limitations of TV. The 16 by 9 is a very limiting format because the grandeur of these works, I think projector is kind of where I'm still at on these. So I don't know where this is. Suburbs Gallery. So it looks like maybe these are newer works. It's possible. Here's Enigmatris, 26,000 followers. And you know what's super interesting about this? Look at that, 9,000 likes. So you can imagine this is like 100,000 people are seeing this. 3,000 likes. But what's kind of fun about this, I was looking, and the ASCII works go back to about here. It's only 34 weeks ago, and here, I mean, how many likes do we have here? 179, and then it goes, 44. So this is only in the last. This is like 26th of August. It's not even a year. So Enigmatris is kind of blown up, kind of stumbles across this, ASCII style. Probably through doing a lot of work, and then does really well, and the world embraces it. So pretty impressive from Enigmatris. I should actually probably close these tabs. Okay, let's continue. So thank you. There's Patrick. I love it. There's Patrick last show. Comments. King Wackett. Hey, Poco. Ernesto Ash here. Directly from the waste of America, the continent, not the country, Panama. Amazing. Amazing. Appreciate all you do for artists. Watching your show is like an injection of drive. Glad to hear, and big shout out to Panama. It's always feel free. Again, the ultimate marketing is if you take a picture and you post it on Instagram, I'm at Pocobelli, I will share the heck out of that. And it kind of goes somewhat to contemporary art people too. So kind of good for you as well. So anyways, thrilled to hear from you. Great. Glad you're enjoying the show. Ed O'Dura watching from Toronto. Awesome. My former hometown of Toronto. Great to hear from you, Edo. Neo Ort watching from Toyo. Toyo or Tokyo? Toyo. Interesting. Where is Toyo? Great to hear. The multiverse is a reminder of the concept of balance, what Buddhist tradition calls the middle path. I'd like to argue that you're standing in your own way by not being pretentious enough. I think this is a joke, but I'm not positive. And there is something to be said for pretension. Again, I think of David Bowie's Outside, which is kind of the spiritual, North Star to a certain degree that would inspired this journal. You might be surprised to hear that a private detective, talking into his tape recorder in the rain. Outside, one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Bowie album, not really well known. And I was talking, so the reason I bring that up is because I was talking to a good friend of mine in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Brian Kotz, and way back when I was like 20 years old, and he was I was like, oh, something was pretentious, and he made the case that there are times and places for pretension. Think of Bowie's Outside, and I had to agree. So it kind of changed my view that, okay, pretension isn't always bad. There's kind of a time and a place for it. So regardless if this is meant to be humorous or not, it's an interesting comment. It's a very interesting comment. Thank you for posting it. Mr. Pip, my best wishes to Turbo. I will let them know. I will let Turbo know. I will let him know. Also on the X, great. Thank you for the wonderful response here. Time A, thank you, Pocobelli, for the incredible show. It's been a spark for me as I curated and shared my collecting journey on Tezos for FabDAO, Formosa Art Bank from their invites days ago. I haven't heard of FabDAO. I realize that your show has broadened my taste, offering visual insights and perspective I might have otherwise missed. The auto-translate YouTube captions, while not perfect, make your show accessible to non-English speakers in Taiwan, where many aren't active on X. It's a fantastic way to dive into the digital art scene. I'm thrilled to hear. I love Art Gnome's advice for collecting. Quote, collect art you love from artists you want to see succeed at prices you can afford, assuming you'll never resell and you'll never be disappointed. As I did with One Don't Knows there, but for me to spend $400, that's how many 100 Tezos. It was just a different time. As a digital artist, one of the valuable lessons that I resonate with, and also aligns with many other prolific digital artists. So this is one of the lessons, quote, create, mint, and don't overthink. The more you create, the more likely you'll create a masterpiece. So I believe you're quoting me here. So thank you for that. Yeah. How true is that? It's actually true for almost anything you do that's creative, right? Grateful for your inspiration and impact. You're more than welcome, and thank you for the very nice show. For the very nice comment. Also, Absurd Deity, a longer comment here. I will go through it. Another great show with both compelling art and thoughtful discussion. Some thoughts on topics you mentioned regarding evergreen content. As you know, I've been working on catching up on all your Artist Journal episodes, and I'm now at episode 179. I can state with confidence that your Artist Journal episodes are indeed remaining relevant and useful to me now, even years after you recorded them. Much of what you discuss in your episodes is about the artistic genres and this movement, not just individual works. And I have to say that many of your predictions as to how this movement is evolving seem to have been on target. Great to hear. Regarding the issue of a lack of variation in your art that you are presenting, I'm afraid this criticism is not entirely unfounded. There are about 2 to 3 dozen artists that you have tended to return to again and again from your earliest episodes through today. Now, it must be said that you have sound reason for featuring these artists as they are creating uniquely compelling art. However, it does appear that you may have been caught by your feed in the same way that one can be caught in one's X or Instagram feeds. It's not that you don't bring in new artists and their works nearly every episode, but it does appear almost accidental when it happens. Just guessing, but this may be due to a reliance on your feeds to provide content for your journals, just as I do my feeds to discover new art by the artists I follow. But as you know, a feed is not designed to find new art, so a reliance on one's feed will, by design, result in a lack of variation. Yeah, it's an interesting question. In a sense, I'm trying to balance out, like I think of Vasari, right? The lives of the poets and artists and architects, or is it poets and artists? It has, 25, 30 artists, right? So it's kind of a little bit like that. It's also from a content perspective, for you to understand and for other people too. Like I started this show, it was kind of like The Myth, Haiti Rockette, Kurt Hustle Collective, and I still love their works, and their work still excites me. So I literally come here kind of to create a kind of newspaper of the imagination and say, read all about it. So in a weird way, in some respects, they're kind of like, the artists are like reporters, to use the early artist reporter term, Rauschenberg's artist reporter term. In a weird way, they're kind of like reporters here, and they're sending their stories in, and then I'm going as editor-in-chief, like, okay, boom, in my own mind, right? And then here we have this show where I just press record on this madness here. And I also like to see the development of artists too, and it's sort of like the artists, to a large degree, it's kind of built around artists, and I do try and bring in other artists as well, as I think you recognize here. Enigmatris is a great example. Someone 6 months ago, I don't think we ever had Enigmatris on the show, and I've probably shown 20 of their works. It always does come at the expense of someone else, though, right? So I am constantly bringing in new, I'm trying to keep a consistency. There's a lot of balancing and dilemma. I'm trying to shorten the show, too, on top of it. So it's just a reflection, really, at the end of the day, of how lucky we are that there's this much what I'd call significant art that's worth pointing to. And just because it's not on this show doesn't mean it's not worth pointing to. But for me, I come in with my subjectives and my biases and go, this is it. Here's my newspaper, right? So, yeah. But it's a dilemma, and just finally, like, I tried to be very inclusive at certain points. I still try and be inclusive, but you can be too inclusive. And we had those 90-minute sprawling shows for like 100 episodes. I mean, and hopefully this episode, like, you can see I'm speeding through it. And in that spirit, let's continue. Ultimately, this is your journal, Adrian, and the majority of your audience, me included, very much appreciates what you choose to share. I will continue to near religiously watch your journals, thank you, as I have been quite happy with your content and approach, and personally do not strongly desire any changes to your content or structure. However, if your goal is to increase viewership, might I suggest a small modification to your structure? You currently have a content structure moving from opening featured art to comment, thread to news to notable art, from your feed to physical art. Exactly. If you were to add a section on new discoveries that you routinely mentioned every single episode, I believe this would effectively silence the criticism that there's a lack of variability in the art you present. It could be a short section lasting less time than it takes to read this comment post of mine. But if it was a regular entry in your journal, it would give new art a, quote, standing that it currently lacks. Yeah, I mean, the thing is I like incorporating. To me, it's all about the product, and it always has. It's been a very pure project, so to speak. And I think people recognize that, and those that do watch it, I think, appreciate that. And so I do treat it like a kind of art exhibition and curation, a visual DJ set. And so to put it almost, I don't want to say it ghettoizes, but I don't want to necessarily say, oh, someone's new. I want to be able to put them within, the artists that I've been showing for 2.5 years here, right? And then and if it works, like we have with Oblivion Fields, kind of a newer artist, have shown maybe 4 or 5 of their works, really excited by their work, and it's really going somewhere. I'm really thrilled. I'm not sure if it's besides Skamra or Yuri J that we put it in, and it works. So that's kind of awesome, right? Rather than having the news section. Finally, AI, as someone was asking about transcripts, at a certain point, you're probably going to be able to put in artists that haven't been mentioned before into YouTube search and Pocobelli's journal or into the video and just get all the new artists. So I don't even know, you'll probably be able to serve it how you like. And as you say, like there are new artists in this show. It's always a balancing act, right? And at the end of the day, I'm making a newspaper of the imagination, so to speak. So I have to put in the greatest articles I'm coming across that, I'm receiving here. How did that happen? That's telling me to move on here. That is hilarious. So how does this happen? Thank you for the comments, Absurdity. Real Idol. You do you. The work you share reflects what you vibe off of. It always comes back to the DJ thing. Selection, curation, being true to be real. It's not about the bangers. I thought you'd appreciate this new Jeff Mills borrows its cover art from spiritual art urtext thought forms. So Anne Bezant, interesting. So isn't that interesting? So Jeff Mills, avant-garde and also, but excessive, but also major techno DJ and artist, musician, has, Mills art very, kind of pretentious in his own way, we might say in the positive sense. Pretentious in the positive sense. Very interesting discussion my friend Brian was bringing up. In a sense, that's what we see here. So thank you for bringing this up and noticing that. I'm a huge Jeff Mills fan, especially just what he represents and how he approaches the whole medium. A lot of respect for that guy. Thank you for posting that. Andrea Bellestrero, this show is not only unpretentious, but also educated, analytical, and open to debate, and that's what makes it both evergreen and useful, in my humble opinion. Thank you, Andrea. Great to hear from you. I think we might have a work from you this episode. I think. Zaxi, Pocobelli, is there some way I can search for names in your journals? So transcripts exist. So this is a matter of time. AI is going to sort this out for us, but not yet. But I think it's coming without anybody having to do any work is what I'm hoping. Maybe just a list of the artists where if it sounds like Absurdity and then it's like, and then that connects to the name Absurdity and get the AI to figure that out, Martin Bruce, thank you for showing my work. Absolutely my pleasure, my friend. A brilliant work as ever. We have another one. Jan Lucas Magoni, having fun. Thank you. Yes, we are. And glad to have the good vibes from you, Jan. Elan Mask, Berlin staple, referring to Monsieur Jambon, also known as Patrick. Dance Vitar, great to hear from you. Kells, really nice to see you featuring a very long-term, in real-life conceptual work, Adrian. Refreshing. Your friend Patrick seems awesome. Yes, we do like to change it up here. In theory, anything is possible. Here on this show. And so glad to hear you enjoyed that. Neural Divine, really enjoy watching the show. So good art. Thanks for sharing. Thank you, Neural Divine. Appreciate that. Filippo Francocci, thanks so much for featuring my work. I really feel like your show is a great guide to this movement we're a part of, whether someone's just getting into the scene or already in the know. This is another thing I have to balance out, is those who are new and those who are in the know. And this is the thing. This show is tailored for people as well. It's a little, can be a little much for people who are coming new, but there are people who come new who go, oh, what on earth is going on over here? So all to say, it's also an awesome record of what's happening in art. I often find myself taking notes. Much love. Thank you, Filippo. Great to hear from you. Little Cakes has a couple of iPhone apps, No Paint and Finger Quilt by Jeffrey Allen Scudder for fun ways to make art on a phone. So that is exciting too. Very cool. Thank you, Little Cakes, for sharing. I'll have to check that out. Juniper Paisley, thank you. Gogolitis, here are all the artworks featured in Artist Journal. They look pretty cool, don't they? I love that Cassern work. Getting off the plane in like Game Boy style, just brilliant. Interesting juxtaposition with Turbo there. Because Turbo has a bit of a Game Boy kind of vibe to him, doesn't he? Very interesting. Z Rogs, great show as usual. I love the fact that whenever I can manage to watch one, I followed more artists afterwards. Also felt very motivated by you saying if you can work on art 1 hour a day, you're an artist. Indeed, as I sometimes feel like that's not enough. Made my day. You are your habits. And just like this show, you go, wow, how'd you make 430 episodes? I made it a habit. And that's what it's all about. It's like the older I get, the more it's like you are your habits, and also, in your character as well, but that's part of your habits, right? You are the decisions you make as well. Let's continue before we have another crash here. Hen Collector and for with a this was. You'll see in a second. For some reason, every time I post this on your YouTube comments, it removes it. So that's why it's an email. Want to share comments on your video? Would love your thoughts on any of this in a future episode. Felt your bite-by-bit analysis deeply. I personally already lived in a deep-seated sarcasm, which is why I've found so much of the tongue-in-cheek outrage in modern art as disingenuous and uninspired. Yeah, and predictable is maybe another way of putting it. I hope we are evolving away from that. Show me something new. So many pieces in the last few years feel like artists are acting like artists rather than being artists. They are creating their art in a way that is thinking in the way a critic would, drenched in outrage, cloaked in intellectual pursuit, bred by cynicism. Yeah, this is a great point. As I describe it, when I go to art fairs, oftentimes, not recently, but last time I was in New York, I went to Scope, and I felt like I was, among other and I think it was during the Armory show, and they have all these satellite art fairs. And as I was walking around there, I felt like I was just witnessing through the art, the conversation between the student and the professor. Like it looked like art school art, I think, to your point. Where emotions are being authentic, having fun, being positive, and emotionally connected or real is somehow seen as weakness or having less value. Devaluing artists that seek connection and elevating artists that seek validation. Yeah, that's why I call it revolutionary positivity, to your point. To me, much of the art world lately has simply become a reflection of the world we already live in. If I want to know where we are, I turn on the news, look outside the window. We're manipulated enough. We don't need art gaslighting us too. The relativism and normalizing outrage that the art world has helped spearhead feels so mass-produced now. Yeah, meaning we're increasingly unable to have any real outrage even when outrage is warranted. Which is quite an interesting point, that all of this faux outrage is undermining and watering down real outrage, things that are truly outrageous. Interesting point. The moment for me is a different path away from nihilism, not against what came before. I'm just ready for what's next. Guide me forward, lead me, light the way. It is the artists, not the technologists or technocrats, who will usher in the path forward, are seers of the future. But if I'm going to hand you the keys to my imagined futures, I need to trust you. And trust begins with truth. If you can't respect me enough to be real, to be vulnerable as an artist, why should I believe the world you will build will be any different from the one we're trying to escape? Without bringing back and valuing honesty in artwork, won't we just be spinning our wheels, recreating a cold, disconnected world filled with hollow art that feels just as orphaned as we do? You're really bringing up the point, which is it can often feel pretty hollow, the art. And to your point, like, you kind of go there because you want significance and meaning, not a vacuum of meaning, Now, in Die with the Most Likes case, we're getting meaning by him commenting on the vacuum of meaning. So that's a different scenario, I would argue, not just true nihilism. You could argue he's being... anyways, let's continue. Diatribe over. I probably sound half crazy. I really don't know, just a collectoring, and I'm much more optimistic than I might sound. Thanks for Pocobelli for stirring me out of my slumber once again. Just bought Bite by Bits Chill, because clearly I need to do that. Hilarious. Thank you for the thoughtful and wonderful comment, and I agree with pretty much all of it. Hen Collector. Huge collector, for those that don't know. I think the biggest, if I'm not mistaken, on the Tezos blockchain. $70 million Giacometti flops at Sotheby's. So this is super interesting. Established narratives are getting called into question here. Very interesting. At a May auction season in New York, a bronze head by Alberto Giacometti, estimated at $70 million, failed to sell at Sotheby's on Tuesday night, dealing a blow to the masterpiece art market. So quite interesting. Look, the thing is, if you saw this in a commercial gallery, and it wasn't famous, would you even want to buy it? Is my question. So my point here is I think there's going to be a massive reassessment, because why is Giacometti famous? I actually don't know, but I think partly, I think of the history of Jean Genet writing that essay saying how absolutely brilliant Giacometti is. And hey, I'm not going to like, what do I know about sculpture at the end of the day? But I'm just saying, if I saw, and if I saw this in a commercial gallery, I just don't think it's holding up with the test of time. It's kind of like Rothko and Pollock, I would argue, controversially. We're going to see a reassessment. Like, time does its thing. And sometimes time does its thing over decades. That's why, like, I don't worry too much. Like, there will be recognition on this show at some point. So I think. At least I have to think that. Even if it's like ways away, but there's always revisions and reassessments and going, okay, what do we care about again? What will stand the test of time? And so interesting. Now, another way of putting this is maybe this is just incredibly overpriced, right? I mean, that's another $70 million. I mean, again, if I saw this in a commercial gallery and I was walking by, I'd probably keep walking, right? Like, it kind of looks cartoonish, and hey, okay, look who's back, Marina Abramovich. More importantly, though, look at the background, the dithering. We saw Ai Weiwei, now we're seeing Marina Abramovich. I think of mech.txt's statement from yesterday, which I thought, again, is there's a wisdom there, which is all roads lead to pixel art. And increasingly, it feels that way as contemporary art and painting, again, how do you keep it interesting is frankly incorporating, it's usually as it always has been, which is adding new technology, incorporating the new technology. So you do see exceptions like Lucas Bjornsson, I think is the name, with those brilliant, we're going to see a couple more in the physical art section at the end, but all to say, Annika Meyer, I'll be speaking with Marina Abramovich about digital art and avatars. Does anyone have a question? Yeah, so again, Ai Weiwei, now Marina Abramovich, dithering. It's exciting. Rafik Anadol has sold an incredible 1,000 editions at $5,000 each, bringing in $5 million. So interesting. Surely that's raising some eyebrows in a lot of places. That is a massive amount of money. Tied to the Dataland Museum plus 22 by 44 museum quality print. It includes that. And a living painting hosted online. Interesting. And here's, so here is part of the... Kind of like a Hollywood movie. It's interesting, isn't it? That, yeah, so this is, I'd say, probably the dominant AI artist from the institutional. So someone was commenting like a few weeks ago, like, I really like Pocobelli's taste in AI art. Like, I really do have a completely different kind of focus is how I'd describe it. So I see this and I kind of go, wow, like, is this what people are, doing? And I'm not saying anything bad about it. I'm just saying, like, it's kind of like, oh, this is how people are seeing AI art. And for me, I go, wow, it's like I live in a bubble over here. My bubble with my wonderful friends that watch here, A.L. Crego. So crypto art blockchain was born to preserve digital art, but now the yes-profit intellectual property has been acquired by a non-profit to preserve digital art. I'd say contemporary collectibles instead of contemporary digital art. So yes, because this is kind of brings up that whole, crypto art versus art on the blockchain kind of debate, which is here, Now Media, breaking the CryptoPunks NFT or IP has been acquired. Now Node, who we were seeing before, Node Foundation, who we don't see any, we saw who funded it, but we don't see who's actually behind it. A nonprofit dedicated to preserving and advancing contemporary digital art. So it's interesting because, there's a lot of criticisms during 2021, and still you see them, but not as often, that, digital art didn't start with NFTs, right? This is a whole other kind of approach to this whole discussion. And so it's interesting. All to say it's interesting because, Yeah, because you'll hear from the crypto art community, this is, you get the impression this is the be all end all, where you have actual people, people from the digital art scene going, that existed previously going, well, actually, there's a whole bunch more. Then you'll get, interestingly, say, like the Digital Art Museum here in Berlin, like Wolf Lieser, who hasn't really embraced NFTs. I mean, he's never said anything bad about it, but he's never really, like, as far as I know, has never really even gotten into it. And so it's just interesting, this wide spectrum. Like I always call it, it's just kind of another example of the war for digital art. Let's continue. Poonam Sony, goodbye Photoshop. This kind of rings true, doesn't it? The world's first design agent is here, and it's insane. 8 wild examples. So this is design. But it is pretty impressive. It is pretty impressive when you look at these. Like, these are, there's no reason, in a sense, to hire a designer. This is what's going to happen. I don't think we're there yet, but it's getting harder to justify hiring a designer anymore. Right? Like, it's sort of like, at a certain point, it's good enough. And a lot of designers actually, like, they freely borrow from other designers. So, if you're doing it through AI, so who knows? Just kind of interesting. Ernesto Ash, art created with a phone, from image creating to minting and listing, all only with a phone. And that is a powerful statement. The fact that you can do that, that's kind of a fun thing to do. Like, for those that are new, you're trying to get into it, try doing that. Just make your art on the phone, mint it on the phone, and list it all on a phone. And see if you can make something you like and sell it. I mean, that is powerful. Here's some phone art. So here is some Ernesto Ash's experiments here. Experiments 001 by Dr. Wackett and Mr. E, which is Ernesto Ash. So cool, beautiful textures here, Ernesto, made on a phone. You can do a lot on a phone. The AI Girlfriends series that I'm doing, that's like 95%, if not 98% on a phone, which is fun. I love it. So let's continue. August Ground, who doesn't love green? This is interesting. We're talking about white. Who doesn't love green? Cyber Mystic, in the natural world, I really like green plants, animals, minerals. However, in art, especially in digital art, with green as a primary color, it is the color I like the least, and I find it the most difficult to harmonize. Rings true. I rarely will use green in like a background, for example. I think to Cyber Mystic or Marcelo Pinel's point. Ed Woods, what started as an idea that would be 10 to 20 seconds in length turned out to be just over 3 minutes. Anyway, there's a real art sort of feel to this. We really have to, apologies to Ed Woods. But this beautiful kind of 3-minute, feels like museum work. It's actually more exciting in some ways than a lot of the video you'll see in the museum, at least for me personally. I even like the loud music, the loud audio. Like, it sounds like you hear the computer. Sounds very institution art. So all to say, super interesting. Let's continue. Peindre, forgot how to mint. So working on physical paintings there. So cool. From what used to be, I think, Félix Lepeindre. And we're doing fabulous. Apologies that I'm running through this show, but look at how far we are. And there's a lot more art to go here. Yuri J, this is part of the Artie Hands, Artie Gallery work. So beautiful. Beautiful. Love the composition here. Gonna risk making this larger. We risk it all for the beauty here. So look at that fireplace, and really cool work here from Yuri J. Here's another one. Is this Taste of Textures? Is that the... And here you see what looks like a dining room. The textures are getting more intense with, maybe it's partly also for the show. It's Mary Yuri J was thought, okay, you want texture? Here you go. Let me just, okay, we're still recording. Can you imagine if I had to do it a third time? That would be insane. Scamra. Favorite denoising strength. So here, just also a part of that show, I believe. So more beautiful work from Skamra. Here's another one. Skamra is really on fire, as you can see. This like AI art here. In case you are new, ASCII substance. So it's just getting really, really cool. You can tell, like, it feels like exports on exports. You upload, recycle, a lot of recycling of images, I think, and it really turns into something special. Hard to imitate, too, which is awesome. So just look how beautiful these paintings are, these AI paintings, just delightful. Look at this. So Skamra hits it out of the park. Direct memory access here. Beautiful title, too. Looks like roses. And here is Oblivion Fields, as we were mentioning earlier, Artifice Artifact. So gorgeous work here. Fits really nicely in our little exhibition here, and a little bit of pixelation, a little bit of texture, and everything. Could go well in that texture show, and I love the repetition or whatever it is here of this figure. Beautiful artwork. I picked one up, I'm pretty sure. So that's from Oblivion Fields, a newer artist in the show. Here is the Isolationist. Nothing is weird anymore. Cool digital painting. I'm pretty sure often doing a portrait of kind of like a bust here and some glitching out of sorts. As you see here, a lot of texture, a lot of noise, and cool painting from Isolationist, picked up by Vincent Van Doe for 350 Tezos. Here is VLDZ, Kling, and this could actually hang out with, or also be showed close to the Oblivion Fields there, and nice pixelation combining with what looks like almost, not a woodcut, but an illustration perhaps, or maybe a processed photograph. 1 Tezos, edition of 100. And here is Uxine, who of course I follow. Look at this. We're back to processing and recycling. Look at this. Like, this was probably put into something, and here we got this animation. So you see, when I say we're scratching the surface of digital art here, and this is another thing you might consider if you're new and you're making work on your phone and you're minting, as Ernesto Ash was saying, and you're trying to figure things out if you're a painter, as we saw last episode. Recycle. Export and recycle, and then also you have something completely different. What does it mean? Very interesting. And here we are. We've gone 37 minutes, and we have a whole bunch of waffles to show here, or pin steak. Edition of 5. I was lucky enough to be sent one of these. Beautiful color here. Kind of looks like an 808, doesn't it? .808 color scheme. Probably accidental. So there is just one, and here is another. Love these avant-garde Fanavision works. Just awesome. Awesome. Here's another one. And the music is just like... Again, I just think of museum. Like, it's so cool. Can you imagine walking into a museum and then you have, like, good speakers and this is playing and you're just like, wow. Who made this? Pinsteak. Who is Pinsteak? Wow. Just awesome. The music. So party. Okay, let's see what else. Okay. I think that was it, all of them. Lena Eckhart with a nice piece here. Not responding, still alive. Cool work, Lena Eckhart. A nice flower, it seems. So this is a Tezos for Object. And here, Martin Bruce, picked up by Deggy D, Hero Gate. So another rad, just one, a gate. And as you see, classic Martin Bruce with the TV snow and the sampled brush, or whatever, the 3D sample. 225 Tezos. Nice sale. Here's Canik Zapata. Usually I can read some Iphigenia. Iphigenia, I think is what the Iphigenia, or however you pronounce that. I can't remember who that is. Beautiful. Again, here using Stable Diffusion and Python script. I think one-dimensional cellular automata, where we saw a little bit of a window into that with the interactive work from yesterday. Here is Zofio Gore on Theia, also Object. Pretty rad work. I love this kind of avant-garde pixel art, almost glitch meeting pixel art. I think we have another one. This one was super fun. Psychiatric Help, 5 Tezos. The doc is in. And we have this awesome kind of texture, or whatever you want to call this, in the background, kind of GIF-like, and the hair coming in and out. Beautiful, beautiful. Already 30 Tezos on secondary, selling out at 5 Tezos. Great deal. This could also hang in that show. Nice and small works here. Time was seen using the Close of Death. Interesting title. It's by Ed Marola, only at Tezos. So you can start collecting here pretty soon. You know, if you don't have much, Tezos, and if you're brand new, maybe someone sends you a Tezos, you don't even need to do the big setup with Binance, although it's good to have. Or Coinbase, whatever your case is. Anyways, beautiful, another really cool work here by Ed Marola, another classic. I need to speed up a bit here before my computer crashes. No joke, I can't do this again. Nuv 1914, beautiful work. I love the no frame on top, outrageous. Outrageous. Edition of 10 for 11 Tezos. Here's another one, playing with the frame. Wild work here from this great artist out of Argentina. Edition of 6 for 16 Tezos, I think on secondary. Here's Dan Control, Bait. So bringing in, I think, for Object, cool work here with the fish. Part of the Animals series, edition of 20 for 8 Tezos. Here is M. Suksu. So very cool work. This is on Instagram. You see all this kind of fuzz or spray, and then you see the little eyes poking out there. So I think it's still putting out work on Object. It was putting out a lot at a certain point. This is Lonewick. No, this is Olga F2727. So I'm pretty sure actually I've shown work by Olga before, but not for a while. So cool abstract here from Olga 2727. Or Olga F out of Ukraine. So nice one there. Time, You and Me in a Field of Corn. So cool abstract work here, kind of pixel art abstract or pixel-esque abstract here, sampled brushes and everything from Time. Here is PP Universal, La Septima Obra Más Conceptual del Mundo. Fancy title, not sure what it means, and I love kind of a surreal work here. Also part of the texture show. With the pigeon on the eggs, just above. So interesting piece from PP Universal. Here's another one. Here, with this toilet in what looks like a parking lot or a path of some kind. Kind of classic here from PP. Here is Mary Migraine, the Clairvoyant. Nice painting here, digital painting from Mary Migraine. Kind of an edgy work here, and this is edition of 0, so this is burned. There may be a newer edition. I think Mary Migraine may have retweeted this. Fajri, 2099, Psychosis 2099, cool pixel artwork, 3 eyes, kind of surreal here. 1 Tezos, edition of 99. Here's Acid Reindeer, Red Deer 2. Kind of cool combination of kind of pixel-esque art, large pixels, and kind of more drawing style over top. Nice piece, edition of 100 for only 57 Tezos cents. Here's Sui Soichi. How reasoning is shaped and how the abstract field surrounds the user. Missing pieces. Cool work here. Again, this kind of textured pixel art in this case, almost like noise filter on top or something. Here, this is pretty cool juxtaposition. Again, it looks like noise or some sort of noisiness brought into the pixel art. And there, so cool, I guess, diptych, perhaps, from Sui Soichi. Here's Tornado Rodriguez, Morning Routine. Here, so rolling out some sort of carpet or something in the bathroom with a cigarette. Beautiful, looks like an on-chain work. PNG stored on-chain, edition of 100, only 66 Tezos cents. Pretty reasonable. Here's Uran Yacon, edition of 1, picked up by Yuri J. Another beautifully textured stream here from Yuri Yacon, really using this, seeming to use this as a device to experiment with exports, it seems, or with textures. Renato Marini, keep building. This is beautiful work here of this brick wall and whatever's coming through it, and some rainbow colors, just beautiful pixel art. Here's another one. I love how this one's moving and the other three are static. Gorgeous color as usual from Renato Marini. Cubes. Here's Xerox Dark City Experiments, doing quite well online here. Cool GIF from Xerox. And here's Cream Safa, and let's see if this plays. Cool synths. Pattern Mixer, a new piece on Super Rare. So that's pretty cool from Kareem Safa. Again, kind of the experimental music with the kind of retro pixel art style. Speaking of pixel art, here's a really nice piece. Not sure who posted this. Gossamer Rosen, what do you see? So really cool. Almost kind of feels like, reminds you of those kind of Asian tiger and maybe a dragon there. Here's Manidal, Groovy Cats, edition of 20. So a couple of cats here, big pixel art, 160 by 160, but magnified by 10, PNG, 30 kilobytes, and that is by Manidal. Sold out. Here is Green Ginger, Party for Party, for the Object for Object. And here you see what looks like fireworks in a cityscape and switching colors, edition of 100 for a Tezos each. Here's Brain Dead, picked up by Deggy D for 250 Tezos. Nice sale. Learn to Grow. And here, I'm not exactly sure what's going on here. Kind of a surreal work. It looks like a tree growing over top of, is this a snail or a rock? Not exactly sure. It's probably purposefully meant to be ambiguous. And kind of a comic book structure, interesting background color. Here's a nice piece by Mech, going outside of the lines a little bit interestingly, create a little bit of contrast. A two-layer pixel artwork. Against the Wind, 301 minted so far. I picked one up. And continuing on, here is Element Lee, Cave Aesthetics. And as you see here, another cool avant-garde pixel art from Element Lee. Love the title. And a cave underneath the church. Awesome. Here is Stalamir, Friends. Love this piece too. I think this is for Object. Great kind of sci-fi pixel art. Really original artist. Edition of 300 for a Tezos. Here's Gogolitis, Gleam of Everywhere. Somehow I own two of these. Wonderfully, Gleam to Elsewhere is the title, and beautiful kind of astronomical theme from Gogolitis. Here is Muji, Meteoric Passage. So using deluxe paint, cool work, static and dynamic pixels juxtaposed. And here's Sachu, I think, Sachku, Summer EXE. This is awesome too. So almost a bird's eye view of the beach, and then a whole bunch of circuit board in the landscape. Very cool edition, or Tezos each. And here's Byte by Bit. Yeah, okay. Fun work here from Byte by Bit. And we have another one coming up too, which I picked up actually. So edition of 2000 for one Tezos. Here's Ariel Presti, Estrato number 22, edition of 1 for 20 Tezos. So available. Abstract pixel artwork by Ariel Presti. Here is Greg Nikshumica, Abstract Object, and again looking like spreadsheet illustration, but it's an abstract for Object, one Tezos, open edition. Here's Time in Cold Harbor. We have to find a good name for this art. I thought this is a pretty cool GLB. Nice experimental GLB, courtesy of Time in Cold Harbor. Here is Marietta, awesomely out of Argentina, Buenos Aires. Love this piece. That classic sponge being put on a chair. Sponge chair. Possible objects. Brilliant work. Tezos. Very nice GLB. Here is Plus Gamma, Progman. This is pretty cool too. As you see here, so playing with old operating system Windows and making art out of it. Interestingly, that's for object. I picked this up. Marry me, bite by bit, 15 Tezos. I was thinking, should I ever pop the question? This might be how I do it. Just pass the phone. So I had to pick it up. I was like, I just may have to do that. So awesome work again by Bite by Bit. Love the vibe. Ed Woods, breaking news. The ticker is Tezos, and cool TV anchor theme, and again, kind of pesky meets glitch. Breaking news, cool title. Here's Jake Studios, Hang in Death, homie. So another surreal stream of consciousness illustration. Interesting cross in the background, and we've got some JPEGs in the hand of very surreal drawing here. Love the keyboard too on the shoe. Wonderful work. Edition of 222 for a Tezos. Here's Ezra Eslin. Your order is ready. Awesome McDonald's work. They never get old, do they? The McDonald's works from Ezra Eslin. Axstone No Signal is now live on Super Rare and kind of has almost a video game meets board game feel. We see almost Mario at the top here. Maybe this is where almost that screen where when you're not playing but you're going through the worlds, or where you're like deciding where to go next and what world to enter in Mario. Seems maybe based on that UI. Very cool. Here is Burka Byram. How I maintain my relationship with myself. Looks like the Spider-Man meme, but it's Burka Byram with different little hearts around it. Beautiful illustration. Again, forgive the speed here, my friends. TV Party, this is by Elby. Lovely work here by Elby, who we did the show with, Pocobelli. I'm calling it the Pocobelli Collection, actually. I've changed Pocobelli Gallery to Pocobelli Collection, and so we had Elby as the first artist. We're working on the second show right now with a new artist, another artist, and so awesome piece here from Elby. I think I'm going to try and do a space, when there's time, I want to do a space with Elby, maybe while I'm on vacation, actually, to talk about that show and maybe do a raffle of sorts. Field Glitch number 1, August Ground. Nice piece from August Ground. Great to see. Cool kind of analog video glitch work. Edition of 100 for a Tezos. Big supporter of the scene. Here is Rams Vriff, Void Analysis. This was going around with some wild music. So I'm gonna mute that, but just to give you a taste. Kind of a wild piece here. This is on Object, edition of 100 for only a Tezos. Pretty cool work. Here is Libro Block Loose Connections. Much softer vibe. Nice textured artwork here. You'd put this in the next room as a kind of water of sorts here after the harshness. But very cool work. That worked before, by the way. Keep Spiraling. Mort Esperel. A very nice piece here. Beautiful. What would you call this? What is this? Fractal work? I don't know. Like animated abstract, edition of 3. 3 minted so far, open edition. Very cool work here by Renke. Very minimal. Love the animation here. Love this. Minimal. It's quite beautiful, isn't it? And upsetting prediction is always good. It's very unpredictable in its movement. I'd argue, at least the first time you see it. Brilliantly minimal. Leica 33GB, Taj Mahal. Fun work here. Analog video glitch of the Taj Mahal. Kind of a different feeling to this one, different kind of textures. VHS tape footage and some devices here. Edition of 1 for 9 Tezos. Here is Klaus, composition 463. So pushing the boundaries here, almost pixelation and some cool colors. Love the frame is getting broken a little bit there too. That's 21 Tezos as ever. Here's Kika Nikolela. Roses for All. So cool. I think there's some AI in here, I believe. Cool composition, nice color. Take photographs. No, it's a series of photographs taken not with a photo camera, but from cloud points derived from 3D scanned spaces, objects, and people from daily life. So that is an edition of 200 on Object for 80 cents each. And there is Kika Nikolela, the artist we just saw. And this was taken by Alexandra Art, Kika in Object Land. Of course, Kika is, I think, the the curator of Object One, one of the main curators at Object. So there she is. And I'm not sure, this is a real photograph, but it kind of almost looks like AI. I'm not sure at Cave. Her career, yeah, actually, no, this is talking about Kika's career. Anyways, let's continue. Cool work. Danielle King, Blue Collar Town. Part of the Artificial Childhood Memory series. A very cool, kind of surreal simulation, so to speak, of missing, just of childhood memories. Edition of 100. Here is Lejo X. I believe this is AI, but I'm not positive. So some cool textured works, part of the texture show that Artie Hands put on. Definitely looks like AI, doesn't it? So very nice work there. And also here's Andrea Balestrero, who we heard from earlier on. This is partly AI painting too. I don't think there is any audio. So cool work here from Andrea Balestrero. The Constant Struggle Between Good and Evil, edition of 100, also for Object, only a Tezos. Here's No Hygiene, Bathtub Sob Sesh. So continues to be just amazing. No Hygiene. I've become a bigger fan every day of No Hygiene's work. Peter the Roman, Apocalyptic Edging, another one of these, what look like AI statues. Is this real? I feel like I've asked this and I got an answer and now I can't remember. I can't remember if these are actual physical objects. They look persuasive as them. Josh, of course I follow all these people, including Josh, who, I think this is Josh's work, this AI artwork. So nice piece here as we begin to wrap up here. And here is Lily Illo, Goodnight Dear Garden. Beautiful color here. Here's a good use of green. So there you go, and contrasting nicely with the complementary color orange in there. Very nicely done. Machine with a very cool AI and humorous AI artwork, AI pixel artwork of Beavis and Butthead as women. Brilliant. I feel like Machine is one of the best users of AI art, one of the most original. I choose you, so a bit of humor here from Machine, as you see here. It'll be interesting to see if she adds color to this. She's done a couple of monochromatic works that I've seen, and just always humor. The new humor, as I like to call it, Nugget Brain. This is cool too. If you like pina coladas, so, some karaoke. Really cool artist here, Nugget Brain, who's also known as I can't remember. Oil on Canvas. Here's another one. Look at this. The Windows Start screen. Windows 95, it looks like. Luca Bjornsson. Just looks like an awesome show. And here is Camito Art Center with another one of these kind of wild illustrations that looks like a combination of printing and illustration. And here is Bosque Gracia's Type Machine. I think we saw this being made. This looks great. It translates quite well to digital as well. And I better stop this show. Thank God. Thank you for joining me, my friends. We did it. And under an hour or two. Let's hope this doesn't crash. Until next time, take care.